So Jordan Peterson has been using his platform to be an anti-trans activist. And he wraps it in pseudoscience, and he steeples his fingers when he talks about it, and then just spreads hate. Have a look at this article by the New York Post. Controversial Canadian psychologist Jordan Peterson has launched a legal challenge against the College of Psychologists of Ontario after he said the governing body threatened to pull his practicing license if he doesn't complete social media re-education for comments he made on Twitter and the Joe Rogan podcast. Peterson, 60, filed an application for judicial review with the Ontario Divisional Court, the Toronto Sun reported Wednesday, as the clinical psychologist has said he will refuse to comply with the regulatory body's demands. Okay, what are these unreasonable demands they're making of Jordan Peterson? Well, it sort of centers around the fact that he's using psychology from the early 20th century, and we're a quarter of the way into 2023. We're in the 21st century now, folks. Here is the continuation that explains that. The CPO, which oversees practicing psychologists in Ontario in order to protect patients from professional misconduct, like, for example, your therapist encouraging conversion therapy, again in 2023, ordered Peterson to complete a mandatory specified continuing education or remedial program to review, reflect, and ameliorate his professional in-public statements, according to a lengthy list of requirements from the college that Peterson shared on Twitter. He must meet with a psychologist for coaching classes. Literally, this guy's got to go back to school, which he must pay for until a final report is issued by the coach that shows their concerns have been properly ameliorated. The CPO reached its decision on November 22nd following an investigation. Okay, good. Good. I like that it has the clause until the coach has been, what does it say? Till a final report is issued by the coach that shows their concerns have been properly ameliorated. Yeah. You need to make absolutely certain that this guy understands what modern science says if he is going to be licensed to practice modern science. He wants to do phrenology, or whatever nonsense they did back when, I don't know, they thought you had to drill a hole in the skull to get rid of demons. Nobody is in danger of going to him for advice, but the fact that he's allowed to call himself a licensed therapist, that's insane. It's absolutely insane. Let me go to this last piece here because Peterson did respond. If it becomes necessary for him to attend classes, he pledged to make all of the details of what they're teaching public. Good. Good. I would like his embarrassment to spread. In June, Twitter suspended Peterson for a post about transgender actor Elliot Page that broke the platform's rules against hateful conduct. Remember when pride was a sin? I just want to give you a sense of who this guy is. And Ellen Page just had her breasts removed by a criminal physician, Peterson tweeted. That's what this guy said. He called a doctor a criminal for performing a perfectly legal operation against a consenting adult who asked them to. Well, let me take you straight to what Shark3ozero said about this cat. because he wants him to go a step farther. And you know what? He wants the licensing association to go a step farther. And I gotta say, I agree with him here. Here is Shark3ozero talking about it.
This man is a licensed therapist, okay? He can get patients. He can like refer people out if he ever decided to be a therapist again, which I don't know if he does because he's making way more money at the Daily Wire than he ever was actually helping people with their lives while being a therapist, right? But like if you just want to keep your license, just go through it's just a remedial course. It's literally just a remedial course. If you're not acting like a professional, if you're making the entire association look bad, yes, they'll cut you.
Now, for the record, this is all like all of it's hypothetical. This guy's not going to go practice therapy. He's making way too much money scamming gullible right-wingers to go back to actually trying to help anybody. It's more about whether or not he gets to say he's a licensed therapist. He should not be able to, saying what he is currently saying.
That's how it works. I'm not gonna lie to you. If like Jordan Peterson guys were running around like a part of your system, I'm not sure if I could trust like your average Ontario therapist. If I'm going to be honest with you, if like Jordan Peterson is your average Ontario therapist, you know, I don't want to like I don't want to be one of your patients. If I'm gonna be completely real with you, partner, I don't.
So I take it back. As he points out, I guess it is more about just it's about more than just Jordan Peterson as well. It's also about whether or not it means anything to be a licensed therapist in Ontario. In Canada. It's the Ontario, yada, yada, yada. But whether or not it means anything to hold that license in Canada. Because if that clown is out there saying this nonsense, this hate speech about trans folks, and he's allowed the government signs off and says, yeah, he can be a therapist. Well, how much faith does that give you in the non-famous therapists in that country? Very little. Very little. One would hope. And God help you if you're a Canadian kid who's trans and you're trying to work some things out. Because right now, that guy is supposedly a representative of the quality of therapy available.
I do not. Anyways, wait.
Right. And more than that, and here's another perverse element of this. So many legislatures around the world now have banned so-called conversion therapy. Mm-hmm. Conversion therapy. Mm-hmm. And to me, this has been a catastrophe. Now, I know that there was a small...
So this person could possibly be the therapist to like a closeted queer person or an out of the closet queer person. And this is somebody who genuinely, unironically believes that banning conversion therapy is a catastrophe and it's bad for society. Do you really think that this person should be like a licensed therapist? I personally don't believe so. Or at least go through like courses again so they could like check you out, because this is crazy. Let me see if I can find this really quick, because it was in here where he had his insane opinions.
Isn't that people be treated humanely or be treated decently?
At two real champions of human rights up there. I have a list of things I hate about Ben Shapiro that's about as long as my leg, but I'm going to keep it on Jordan Peterson for this one.
The insistence is that your vision of yourself be reflected by me in defiance of baseline reality and in order to redefine how society as a whole works.
Well, a lot of it's murky thinking. You know, if someone asked me, do I believe that there are gender fluid people? I would say yes. And I would say...
Oh, wait a minute. Okay, never mind. Case closed. Looks like he gets it. There are, in fact, gender fluid people. Obviously, he's going to ruin it.
Ally.
a young man who's gender fluid, I know what he's like temperamentally. He's high in agreeableness. He's high in neuroticism. So he has a feminine temperament. He's more interested in people than things. And he's extremely high in openness. And so his temperament.
What the fuck does that mean? He has a, oh yeah. Yeah, where he's like redemption arc. No, he says that a gender fluid, for one, he's saying he, and two, he's saying he has a woman brain, and that's why he's air quote gender fluid, because he has woman brain.
Is fluid. He's creative, and so he's one thing one day and one thing the next. And his fundamental temperament is tilted towards the feminine. But that doesn't mean he's not a man.
Exactly.
So that's.
So remember redemption arc over. As soon as it begins, it ends. Do gender fluid people exist? Yes, they have woman brain, but they are man. Person could he's just like completely out of lockstep with just like the medical association and the world's doctors' understanding of queer people. Period. He's just does not understand, which makes him bad at being a therapist. So I just don't believe that he should be a therapist. If you can't do it, you're just. It's not even that you don't know as much to be able to help them as well as possible. You're just you would actively harm them. And honestly, like if I was a part of the Ontario psychologist fucking bullshit or whatever the shit is, I would have just like just ripped his license degree up. Honestly, for me, the fact that they even gave him the option to plead his case is honestly like more than I think he deserves, but they're giving it to him anyways. Peterson also claimed to the National Post that he was targeted for supporting the Canadian opposition leader Pierre Poilievre's.
That guy is, I don't want to say every bit as bad as Trump, because Trump was worse even than I had imagined. But that guy is garbage. I heard a little bit more about him on the True North Eager Beaver podcast. It's a Canadian podcast I enjoy. Just absolute hot garbage.
Criticisms of the COVID-19 lockdowns. Yikes. Yikes. Professional bodies are supposed to ensure that practitioners are content.
Side note, what is it with right-wingers and being pro-disease? That's so bizarre. When COVID came out, I did say out loud, unfortunately I wasn't on YouTube at the time, but I did say out loud to my colleagues that the right wing would find a way to get on the side of COVID. And God help me if that wasn't darkly correct.
And not enforce political orthodoxies or languages police outside the office, the board wrote in a scathing column. Yo, bodied again. I practiced for 20 years without being investigated. Yes, that's a problem. That's an issue. And honestly, that's bad. That's bad. That speaks poorly on the Ontario department, if I'm going to be completely honest with you.
Yes, it does. Yes, it certainly does. I'm going to go back to my familiar corner. It does speak bad of the licensing association over there. And he brought up a great point. Re-education. What are we attempting to re-educate this guy on? Basic human decency? Are we going to pretend like he just didn't know? He just didn't know that conversion therapy is nonsense. It is hurtful. He came out against a law that simply includes gender amongst the protected classes in Canada. That's it. He came out for conversion therapy in 2020, whenever the hell. He's still for it in 2023. He should not have, there shouldn't be a debate about this. License pulled. That ought to be what happens. They are instead taking the route of pulling his license if he doesn't take X and Y class. It sounds like he won't. He's instead, actually, I take that back. It sounds like he will, but only if he loses in court. So here's hoping Canadian courts are less corrupt than U.S. courts, and he does, in fact, lose, and badly. What can you do about it? Nothing. It's not our place to. Our being anybody outside of the courtroom. But I did include a link in the description. If you see behavior like Peterson displayed from a therapist you're seeing, there is a guide to how to deal with it, how you can file a complaint against therapists that against the organizations that license therapists in the U.S. You got a wackadoo out there who shouldn't be a therapist, who is pushing this nonsense. That guide will help you file the complaint against them, which could help other people. Congratulations to Shark3ozero on an excellent video. That's the second time I've had him on here. Both times he's knocked it right out of the park. The link to his full video, which is about a half hour long, is in the description. Check it out if you've never seen the guy before. He's quite good.